Thank you all for continuing to support my show, Everyone Let's Talk. My name is Arlene J. Ramsey. As you know, it's every number one, let's talk. I like to be different, so I had to add the one. And plus, it shortens up the logo, or if you're going to write it or spell it. So, as you all know, that I am having a series, and today's part of the series. So last week we discussed how society has been saying that women have been supporting not down low, I'm sorry, men who are bisexual, men who are gay, and now men who are trans women, right? So women are getting blamed for that. We went into detail in regards to that. And prior to that, the week before, we went in to discuss or question, is there an attack on masculinity? Right. So now this week, I say that women have lost the plot. We have lost the plot. Now, this is not to point the fingers at men and women. Women have been getting abused since the beginning of time. So let's be clear about that. Domestic violence is not a new thing. I repeat, women have been getting abused and taken advantage of since the beginning of time. And remember, there was a time women could not vote, women could not go out and about, women could not have their own bank accounts, women could not have their own IDs. Women were considered property of whoever the husband or common law husband she had, right? So women's liberation just took place in the 60s, right? 1960s. So here it is, we're in 2026. Let's be clear of that. And of course, I can't speak to what has happened before Christ and all these things, right? I'm going to be 50 years old in December, but I want to start with that foundation so we have some place that we're going to start. And of course, there are going to be people on this line that are older than me who can add later on down the line in this podcast some insight to what a little bit of history was like for them, which was before I was born, right? So now, remember that we have been taught that men are protectors and providers. Men are supposed to earn their spot in society. That is a God-given structure. It is not something that I am saying. It is not something that we are teaching people. This is how God has intended it to be. Men have to earn their spot. We see that in nature as well, right? The males in nature all have to prove that they are the alpha before they are able to mate and pass down their bloodline, right? So of course we're not animals to that degree. We're supposed to be the most intelligent animal, right, as some people like to call it. However, the man do have to, back in the day and back in indigenous cultures, there was such a thing where men had to earn their rites of passage, right? So the purpose of a rites of passage is that the young fella coming into age has to prove that he is fit to be a husband and a provider, right? That was the purpose of rites of passage, right? It is not just about working and bringing home an income. There is great leadership in being a provider and being the head of the household, right? It also requires a man to have emotional intelligence, a man to be slow to anger, quick to listen, a man who actually kneels before God. We all should be kneeling to God, but the man most certainly should be getting his nourishment from God and seeking leadership from God and answers from God or the higher power. Allah, whichever name we're choosing to call the higher power, man should be receiving information and his whereabouts from the higher power. Now, we understand that there's more than one higher power, because when we say that and we say God, people think love and light, but then there's the other entity, and people are showing and proving that they are in alignment with the other entity. That other entity actually aligns with a different set of principles. So what we're dealing with is people that are not equally yoked. And it seems as if Men are frustrated by the role or the position that they have to hold for the community and for their family when it comes to earning their position, right? Because there's great disdain or frustration or cynicism that is spoken when many men say that women have it easy. But when we go to ask the question to get further understanding as to what that means, there's no conversation or further, they don't expound, right? So there leaves room for a lot of tension, disagreements, abuse, and so on and so forth. We have to remove ourselves from that type of thinking because there's always a better way. And that's something I always say. There's always a better way to do things. And it is a matter of aligning ourselves with people who are equally or evenly yoked, right? So the frustration lies there. Remember what I stated last week at the end of the podcast. Men have to earn their spot in society. They have to actually be the foundation, the pioneers to build our foundation. Men build everything that we use: cars, buildings, computers, lights. Everything we use has been built by man, man. So we also, as a society, need to continue to speak life to that and appreciation to that. Because I can see how life has seemed so easy for us to live in that we forget who actually build these foundations that we're roaming around in, right? So, I can only imagine how some men feel and think that they don't get appreciated enough, and some say that they're not appreciated enough. And again, I always say that communication is a skill, right? So not all the time people don't expound because they don't want to. Some people don't know how to articulate their thoughts, and some don't know how to articulate their feelings. So now when we try to have certain conversations, it is difficult to have those conversations, right? Communication is a skill. But if we get back to the basics, we should be understanding what each other is saying, provided that there's no ulterior motive. Going back to equally yoked. So we need to start, again, speaking life to that, appreciating everything that this is why they say that gratitude is extremely important, but we have to expound on that as well. What are we being grateful for? Not just because we're alive, right? We need to be grateful. Everything that we're looking at and using, especially the hardcore foundational things, has been built by man. Now, women, our core roles, aside from giving birth and continuing the circle of life, right? Because we, believe it or not, and these are things that women want to argue, we have no control over what our body does when we get pregnant, right? That the way the way our bodies have been built, it does what it does on its own. We have no control over how the child grow, when the child is done growing, and how the child comes out. Women have absolutely no control over that whatsoever, right? We help the child come into this world when we push. When the child lets us know that they're ready to come out, we have to push and help that child come out, right? Because now, if the child pushes and the woman doesn't help, the child can't come unless someone else helps the woman. We have no control over anything else. I think we position ourselves to be in control of things that we don't have control over, and the things that we actually do have control over, we don't take control. We want control over the wrong things, and that's egotistical. We have no control. Neither does the man have no control what the child looks like. His sperm does what it does, and our eggs do what it do, right? What our actual core role is to create community, build community, create safe spaces, create healthy families. While the men are out there in the jungle, which is, the world, we are to ensure that we are building great communities and safe spaces. That's what our core roles are. Because as we know, if men have to deal with men often, They're going to be swinging swords like Conan. The reason why men take a softer approach is because of us. They have to consider us. They have to consider the children. They have to consider the community, right? And this is not a negative approach. This is what men do, and this is how men are supposed to be, just like animals in the animal kingdom and in nature. You let a male from another territory go someplace else, and they're going to bang out. That's just how it is, right? So, with us being the human species, the supposedly more intelligent species. I say supposedly because animals are extremely intelligent, right? I watch a lot of nature, so I know. Um, we're supposed to do that and remember why men take a softer approach. That's where our power is. And it is not to manipulate men, but it is to stay rooted in our core responsibilities and rooted in our power and where and how and why we should be respected as women. Why this conversation is important. It's because men are not respecting women anymore. And women, I listen to a lot of things that people are saying in these arguments and these disagreements, and they're not saying the right thing because they forgot the basics. That's why they're not saying the right thing. Just saying that I have had your children is not enough. Not when the man thinks that you're not creating a safe space. Not when the man believes that his children are being abused. Not when a man believes or feels or thinks that he can't have peace when he comes home from work because he's dealing with a lot of your arguments or whatever the case may be. Then the man is starting to question what is all the work that he's doing for? What is it actually for? Because in return, he's not getting the spiritual covering, the peace, the gratitude, the remembrance of who he is. He's not getting that. The other thing, women, we give men our spiritual covering. And let's not get it twisted. Men are spiritual as well, right? Because we help them with our spiritual energy. When men go out into the world to take on the world, they're also absorbing some of our spiritual energy in order to go out in the world and do that. That's the way God created us. Just like we absorb our men energy, whenever we got to get gully and do what we have to do in life, we're tapping into masculine energy, right? Feminine energy is not necessarily gully. There's a different way to how women handles things if she's just doing it from a feminine aspect, right? So it's important that we understand that, so we understand the roles that we're playing in each other's life, so we understand that and obtain the gratitude that we need to obtain and have the exactness, the matter of factness about life. We should not be getting beat in our households. Women should not be losing their lives in the households. Not when we are the reason why men take a softer approach to life. We're the reason. When he goes outside, he handles himself differently because he thinks, I have a wife and children to come home to. And if he doesn't have any children, he has a woman to come home to. And if something happens to him, what will that do to her? Don't think for 1 second that these are not the things that men are thinking about when they're roaming the streets. We don't listen enough, too much clap back. And I keep saying that we glorify the wrong things. We glorify the ratchet behavior, clap back, everybody got an attitude, everybody's slamming the gavel. That's all ego. It's all ego. And we're moving further and further away from the truth, right? The other thing is this. We have to get some courage. We cannot, and I'm saying this because a lot of women are raising children and families without the father in the household. And I can only imagine how difficult that is to have to raise children and a family on your own. However, women, remember, we are warriors. We fight different, but we're still warriors. What happened to the mama bear? We should not be allowing our children to get sexually abused by other men that we're involving ourselves with or by some male in the family. Too much of that is happening to where the respect for the woman is leaving our society. Women, we do a lot of fighting and arguing, and I'm trying to understand why it doesn't make sense. The fight, the resistance, the arguments, the ego, the attitude is not in the right place. Because all of this tough talk should be for the person that's trying to sexually abuse your child. It should be for the family members who's abusing your children. It should be for the man that you're dating who thinks that he should beat you in the household. I'm saying we cook the food, right? And I'm not saying this because of violence sake. I'm saying this for the sake of you need to understand what's going on here. Like you got to instill gratitude back into the person that think that they can walk all over you. You know why? Because that man still needs your energy to survive in this world. He's still siphoning your energy. So as long as someone is siphoning your energy, there's value in who you are as a person. So you're going to use up the value of the person and beat them. You know, what happened to hitting someone with a skillet? What happened? We cook the food. There has to be some way, shape, or form that we get back to our footing so that respect, appreciation, and value for the right things become back in order. We're getting out of control. Every other day you turn on social media, a woman has lost her life to domestic violence. Every other day. I mean, we can't even begin to count this. It's ridiculous. And it is not because of social media. 20 years ago, we were on social media and domestic violence was not like that. The domestic violence has spiked since COVID, the pandemic. It spiked up. But what I am looking at is that women are continuing to be victimized and are not finding a way to fight back and ensure that our husbands and the men that we're involved with respect who we are and we respect who they are. Like things should never get to the point where you're getting black eyes, you're getting beat up and constantly getting beat up. The other thing is this. I don't know how much more honestly I can say this, but I say this frequently. We need to get back and get into further education of psychology. We need to learn more psychology. Some of the people we are involved with have personality disorders that you can't change them, right? And these personality disorders are spiritual, right? So in psychology, it's going to be called antisocial personality disorder. Whether someone has narcissistic personality disorder, they're a sociopath, they're a psychopath, they're dark triad, right? That's all, antisocial personality disorders. But then in the spirituality, these people are in alignment with that other energy. Whether you want to call it Shaitan, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call that energy, right? And then we have people that get into the argument of what do you, how do you know what's right and wrong or good or bad, right? So there's so many challenges to words that people are being contrarian to the point where they're actually losing the plot, right? So I will say this. What I mean by if I say something is bad or good, right or wrong, or healthy, let's just say healthy. Anytime a person is doing something where it is causing someone else grief, or the person is getting their way, their needs met at the expense of someone else, and they're putting that other person in a deficit, they are oppressing the other person is in pain, agony, the other person cannot be the greatest expression of themselves, be the happiest them, be the joyous them. That is someone that is what we call wrong, bad, doing unhealthy things. I'll put it that way. Anytime someone is doing things that is sacrilegious to where it is putting other people in misery and agony, that is the wrong thing, right? So we can eliminate bad, good, wrong, right, and we can look at the actions and the character. If someone else is in misery and agony, that is causing a spiritual disrupt. And what people don't understand is that is also causing karma, negative karma, right? So we have to be, or we should be thinking, do we want good dharma in this world or negative karma? The other thing is this, oftentimes or many times, society will say, I leave everything in God's hands. I'm going to pray and leave everything in God's hands. We've been taught one side of information too much, right? And so life is holistic. There's not one aspect. There's duality and polarity to everything. And then there's an in between. So I say this because it's important that you understand. I want you guys to think about this. How many times you know a person that has done wicked and treacherous things, and you say, well, this person she's gonna get her karma, or he's gonna get his karma, and you don't see that person get their karma. You don't see them get the karma that you think they should get. You know why? That person does not go by the same principles you go by. They are in alignment with that other entity, and they are doing exactly what they were supposed to do according to that other entity. God allows free will. Free will. What we also should recognize is people that we know do the wrong thing or do things to oppress and agonize other people. They don't leave things in the hands of God or the devil. They always take matters into their own hands, which is why they are always offending other people, antagonizing other people, provoking other people. They are always the one that is the agitator. That is a prime example right there that they're following the spiritual code of the other spirit that they are in alignment with. They take matters into their own hands. So those who believe in God and pray to God, we have to start taking matters into our own hands. If we don't, we will continue to be victimized by people who take matters into their own hands. And we can't continue to do that. Right? God give us free will. That is a wrong way for us to live and exist in this world. I am a firm believer of it. I am one of those people. God has his legions. Remember, angels are not this cute, cuddly thing that we think angels are. And legions are not that. He has his warrior angels, and they are not cute. And when they go to war hard, right? So we got to understand that the warrior is in us as well. We have to get back to that because we have to stand 10 toes on something. We can't continue to allow ourselves to be victimized. This is why I say women have lost the plot. Because we could speak to the men. We've been doing this for decades. I've watched. There's a show on YouTube where they're talking to men who abuse their wives and girlfriends. These men, when they recall the abuse, some of them have a smile and a smirk on their face. There's no remorse. There's no remorse. Right? And still in all, the interviewers are trying to understand, is there something that the woman have done wrong to trigger this man, or is this something that has happened in the man's childhood? And I'm watching this as in to say, these people have personality disorders. You're talking to psychopaths, sociopaths, people with narcissistic personality disorders, malignant narcissists, borderline personality. These types of disorders are also on a spectrum, and you have some people that have co-diagnosis, where they have more than one diagnosis. I've seen an interview with someone that has diagnosed as a sociopath and narcissistic personality disorder. And it is a proven track record that these people do not get, they are not reformed. They go to therapy and they're not reformed. And it is because they're hardwired that way, they're born that way. So I say this to say, when you do all that you do, you're collaborative, you're supportive, You're loving. You're trying to figure out what the problem is. You're trying to work on resolve. And all of that is happening, and the man is still abusive. The man is still disrespecting you and treating you like you're a peasant. It's time for women to understand that not them, and it is the man. And I clearly understand how domestic violence works. Oftentimes, people are manipulated, emotionally manipulated. They're gaslit. We have to get to the point where we're rooted in some truth. We cannot have our truth in someone else's hands, right? We have boundaries. If there's something that's going on with us that we are uncomfortable with, and we know that we're uncomfortable with it, and our partner does not want to hear it, those are red flags. We can give them an excuse maybe once or twice, but we're talking about this is life here. And if there's something that continues to worry and trouble you, and he continues to do it, and there's no reason why he should do it, you should know that this is someone that is trying to strip you of the truth and of reality. We have to we have to find ways to be rooted in truth. Too many women are getting emotionally and mentally manipulated to the point that when they start getting physically abused, some of them, when they go to therapists, it's like they need a whole makeover because they are out of touch with reality to the point where they believe that they are the fault for everything. And it's important to have this conversation because we have to start thinking outside of ourselves. If we're the fault for everything and this person is continuing to do this, what's going to happen to the children? What's going to happen to society? We're losing, leadership, you know, I think it's something that people can learn, and many of us were born that, right? Right. So it is definitely a skill set that's born. But when you have leadership qualities, oftentimes you think outside of yourself and you think about the other person. You think about the community, you think about society. So as things are happening to you, you you're thinking, if there's no one to stop this individual and this person continue to do the things that they're doing, how will that affect the children? How will that affect the community? What type of children are we going to have 15, 20, 30 years from now? We need to be thinking like that. Now, I've always thought like that since I was a child. And I mean, there are adults that tell me I think too deeply. They don't understand the danger in that. I don't think too deeply. Someone has to do it. Because when society is getting out of control, how do we bring the people back? We have to bring the people back. Isn't there a quote that says the greatest thing the devil ever did was convince the people that he didn't exist? That's a thing. People are thinking that there's no existence to it and that people just need healing. Well, those people try to, go to therapy, and oftentimes they come out, worse of an abuser because now they're using words that therapists use on people that they victimize. Right? We sit back and watch bad things happen to people that we know, and we don't step up because we believe or listen to shabby excuses that's been given by the abusers. And one of the things that I like to say is, okay, let's say that is true. If that's true, then you should be dealing about the issue, humiliating the person in front of groups of people, beating the person in front of groups of people, ostracizing the person, stopping the person from making a life for themselves. That has nothing to do with whatever you say the issue is. Whatever you say the issue is, deal with that. Anything else is actually looking to victimize an individual and abuse an individual. That speaks to a darker psychology in the individual that's doing it, right? We're not, we got to find what the truth is. Like there's a thing I used to do when I was, because I'm a mutable sign and I'm double mutable. I'm a Sagittarius with a Virgo moon. So that means I'm easily shifting and adapting. And I've learned this at a young age. If I want to know, respect myself and be confident in what I'm saying and doing, I need to be grounded to something. If I want to speak to people and have people, take me seriously and understand where I'm saying what I'm saying, I need to be rooted and grounded in something. So what grounds me is integrity and principles and humanity, things along that nature. As long as we're treating other people like human beings, as long as we're being integral with what we're doing, I'm grounded in that. Anything that goes outside of that, nope, that's where I'm going to resist. So finding my grounding in those principles gave me something to latch on to. That's where my truth is. So as long as the truth is grounded in integrity, humanity, treating other people like human beings, having empathy for other people, as long as we're dealing with that, I'm good. Anything that goes outside of that, I don't participate. I'm not participating in bullying. I'm not participating in just gossiping about another person. I'm not participating in mistreating someone else. That has nothing to do with whatever an issue is. Now that would be my ego that is now looking to harm someone. Deal with the issue and move along. Why it's important to say that is because people are easily manipulated. And we have to be reminded that the shifty one, whether we call it Satan, Shaitan, the devil, the demon, whatever name we're going to call that energy and entity, that energy and entity thrives off of chaos and confusion. You can only get chaos and confusion through manipulation. And you can only be successful with manipulation when you're around people who are easily manipulated. So if we're easily manipulated, easy to believe things, what are we standing on when we're faced with someone who's dark and abusive? So this is my outcry to the women. And here's why this is important. I need us to understand that righteous people, both men and women, are outnumbered by those who are not righteous. It is a real thing. We're outnumbered. If there's one pure soul, there's 10 that's not. That's just society and that's just life. But women, we are the ones to upkeep the household and have children. We're the ones that get to say this person does not deserve to have their bloodline, lived on. We're the ones to not have children for people that don't deserve children. But if we don't have better insight, better foresight, better clarity, rooted in better and strong principles, of all people, we got to be strong and principled. That's where our strength needs to be. We need to be holding on to principles that some things is just totally unacceptable. We're not going to accept that. And if that's what you're given, I'm not the woman for you. I will not be in your home cooking your food, having your children, making you happy and passing on your bloodline because you're no good for society. That's what we got to be doing. That's the mentality that we have to have and take on in society. Understand that some people are no good for society, and we should not be carrying their children. If we can't do that, then how do we hold the rest of society accountable, right? Because we're not strong as men, as we already know. This is why things happen to women in domestic violence situations. You can't beat a man, right? And so the goal is not to beat the man and be as strong as the man. The goal is to take away the things that the man needs to live on, and that's his bloodline. If the man is abusive, if the man, you can clearly see, wants to sexually abuse children, beat you, beat other people, exactly why do we need somebody like that in our society? Now he exists. Now, they exist, so we can't, we're not going to just, we're not here to take anyone's life. But we are here to project lessons. People got to learn. They have to learn lesson. And the lesson is when women stop having sex with, stop having children with certain types of men, they will get their act together. They'll get their act together. When we're not willing to do this, and they know that they want to leave a bloodline, they want to leave children behind, they're going to change. The other thing is this: many of those men don't take care of their children, right? So they leave the woman single to take care of kids alone. So exactly why do you want children? That's another conversation, right? Why do you want children? Some of them, right? Remember that there's a saying and a truth that we know, that the reptilians, there were one point in time, or the fallen angels, that came down here and mated with human beings and had offspring. And the way society is going, the way some of these men are abusing women, the way some of these women are abusing men and their children, and having no remorse, having absolutely no reason to doing that, only but having the spiritual need to do it because that's what brings them joy. If it brings you joy to see someone else agonized, that is something to look at. That is something to understand, that that's ungodly. I know oftentimes society gets to the point where we say, well, I don't want to judge. They don't want to judge, and you feel guilty because you don't want people judging you. So I understand that too. But didn't the Bible says judge a tree by the fruit it bears? You need to assess the character of a human being in order for you to know what human being that you're around, and in order for you to know this person is safe for you to be around. Right? Sometimes we go into the store and we assess a pair of shades. Like I got these Chanel shades. They're so old, right, with diamonds on the side. We assess a pair of Chanel shades, some Jimmy Choo shoes. The way we assess things that we want, that's how we should be assessing the characters of the people that we're placing ourselves around and the people that we're choosing to have children with or choosing to live with. And we don't do enough of that. And a lot of that is because we're easily manipulated by the charm of that person, both men and women. Because men have gone through it too, where they've been with women who are on that demonic energy, and they lost it all. I've heard stories from men that say, and when they say they lost it all, some of them don't have children with these women. But these women come in so conniving. It's like the apple that's rotting from the inside out. That's how insidious some people in society is. And we have to talk about this. This is not gossip. This is not judging. We have to be real. We have to be real. There's a lot of talk. There are FBI's on Facebook. There's what was he, 25 years as an FBI and detective? And he talks about gang stalking. Organized gang stalking is a real thing, because now when you are involved, and sometimes it's your own family members that are like that, and when you're the person who are different from them, that they're siphoning your energy, stealing your ideas, and abusing you, they don't want you to get away from them. And when you finally gain the strength to get away, they will assassinate your character and smear your name. And the goal is so that you won't be successful anyplace else. They would rather you not have no place to turn. You ought to know that that is not someone that is of righteous spirit. That's an unsavory spirit. We have to know that. And we have to be comfortable with calling a thing a thing. That's what Iyanla Vanzant will say. Call a thing a thing. Call a thing a thing. It is unsavory. There is no reason why you should want to see someone not live their life in peace. Does anyone have anything to add or say at this point? Okay, anytime someone is not wanting a person to live their life in peace, wanting to control the narrative of a person, you ought to know that that's unsavory, right? People will say, I don't care what people think of me. This is not about caring what people think of you, right? When people are assassinating your character, it goes beyond just gossip and talking about you. If they just talk about you and they do nothing, then it's fine. But when people are looking to ruin your partnerships, turn people away from you, turn people from working with you, partnering with you, trying to find out where you live so that you can potentially lose your job. What do you think that is? All of these things are going on in society, and people are turning a blind eye because they're being manipulated by what the wrong people or unsavory people are telling them. So I'm saying this: if whatever it is that unsavory people are saying, if that's the truth, what does that have to do with the person now trying to get everyone to not involve themselves with the other person, trying to see to it that the person loses their job, lose businesses, lose their homes? When you see things like that happening, you have to, or you should understand that envy is at play. You should understand that shaitan is at play. And we need to revolt. We need to, that's why I say get back to the basics of things. Remember this. I don't remember all of the seven deadly sins, but there's such thing as the seven deadly sins. We should use certain things as our measuring stick. How does a person measure to certain principles so that we understand who and what we're dealing with? Why this is important is, again, how are we going to create safe spaces, healthy communities, upbring healthy and safe children, have safe and healthy households, if we are far away from principles, and if we are going to get manipulated by what people are telling us, by the confusion? Here's the manipulation and confusion. They speak with a lot of emotion, and they're raising their voice, and I can't believe that. And so when people do that, it's real easy for people to react off of someone else's emotions. And I'm not saying that we're not going to react. I'm not saying that I haven't done so. And I would listen to what a person have to say, and I might chime in with them on the phone or whatever, right? That's just on the phone and having a conversation. When I'm done with the conversation, I start to really assess the situation. See, it's one thing to react on the surface and be someone's listening ear and someone's support because you're not making a move. And there's another thing to actually make decisions and movements based off of that. I'm not making movements and decisions based off of someone else's emotions or what someone else says. I have to break down the situation and assess before I make any movements, because I'm holding myself to a certain standard. And I clearly understand, because I know better, there's going to be certain karma that I'm going to face if I go out here and act like I don't know better. So I can't afford to have someone manipulate me to move the way they want me to move without me doing the right thing and checking with God first. Right? We have to get back to those women that, we can't be played with. We're offering up too much. We're offering up too much. And what? Spirituality is something else. How many of you have heard, listen, don't just go and take something from the tree. If you go to pick vegetables from the uproot vegetables, ask first. Communicate with the tree first before you take the peach, the orange, whatever the fruit is. Go talk to the tree. Some people say you're crazy. That's not being crazy. That is respecting another living thing. And because you need the peach, or you need the kale, or the arugula greens, whatever it is you're going to eat, you don't just grab it, right? Because now that's abusing it. You planted something, or something is here that God has given us to nourish ourselves with. And before we eat it or, take it from off the ground, we should go and have that conversation. We should go and say a little prayer and show our gratitude because we're not entitled to anything. The way society is acting, it's like they're entitled to the spiritual casting of the woman. Our energy is being used. People are siphoning our energy to live a better life for themselves, and you get no thank you. You don't even get a thank you. That's making other people a thief. They're robbing you. People have to be grateful for what you give them. They're not entitled to your energy, your beauty, no currency that God has blessed you with. That includes your womb, that grows a child healthy and snugged in our stomachs before we give birth. We need to get away from the ridiculous attitude and arguing for simple things because we're missing the bigger picture. We're majoring in the minor, we're minoring in the major, and we're losing the plot. We have transgender women who are men that identify as women who think that they're more of a woman than we are. This is ridiculous. They have the confidence to go out here and do this, but where's the principle behind it? This is what I mean. When we don't stick to the basics of things, to the core nature of things, to the spirituality of things, we let people run off with the surface level and act like that's like you taught someone a recipe and you didn't even give them the core of the recipe, but now they think they're better than you because they learned off of you, but you're a carbon copy. And then don't respect the fact that you taught them. You decided to teach them that. They have no gratitude when they're thinking that they were entitled to your wisdom. Meanwhile, they haven't sat here and went through anything you went through for the oil that you have. That wisdom, that oil, that spirituality comes. That's like a diamond has to get beat and goes through a rigorous process before it becomes a diamond. We have gone through rigorous processes. We got to understand who we are. And I'm not saying it in a sense where we're just going to come out here shallow and say, yeah, I'm that girl, blah, blah. No. I'm not saying that. We have to start instilling that wisdom. Society is out of control. The youth don't respect the elders. They don't even respect the generation that came before them. Everybody's out of control. This can't continue to happen. It can't continue to happen. Anybody has any statements or questions? As it's 8:03.
Hey.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Who's first? Anybody? Want to be first?
I think Mattoon, is that you? I think Mattoon said something first. And then another gentleman said something after him. So go ahead.
Yeah. There seems like and greetings everyone. First of all, Black Rising, Hotep. There's been a campaign, I'd say for the last maybe 20, but at least in the last 10 years, to present a woman as physically able to do the same things that men can do, especially in movies and things like that, which I started disregarding years ago, separating fact from fiction, and I try to tell the folks on one of the shows to make sure you inform your children about the difference between real and not real, acting and real life. But they have women beating up men. You have women, and some of them, I think, they are really, really good athletes that do these things athletically including that UFC. I mean, these women be getting it in ways that you wouldn't think that women should be doing. And I guess my question is to everyone is, how do you say to a woman that you are not doing the same job as a man when it comes to certain things, even though you're on the job? You got the job as a carpenter, a plumber, a grave digger, and these things require a certain amount of physical abilities. How do we say to women you should make less if you can't do the same thing, or you might not even be able to have the job?
That's a good question. So I think I touched on something similar a couple of shows back, and this is why it's important for us to have this conversation when I say women have lost the plot. Many women are going into male jobs, male trades, because of workplace bullying. Women, you guys, women got to understand how demonic and nasty they are towards other women. A lot of women are getting pushed out of office jobs, and so we got to make a living. I was a woman that dealt with workplace bullying. Listen, some of us have voluptuous shapes. I got a voluptuous shape. Whether I'm overweight or not, I can be perfect weight and I'm still going to have a nice waist, a behind that protrudes, and breast that protrudes. Along with being intelligent, resourceful, along with knowing my job, along with getting things done efficiently and effectively. That's a problem to women, because women, our currency, like a man's currency, is his money, his ability to earn. A woman's currency, part of her currency, this is why men say we have it easy, because our currency comes with our beauty. So if you have beauty, that's one. If you have a voluptuous shape, or a shape that many people, that attract many, that gets attention, that's two. The intelligence is three. All of these things stacked up, women are constantly comparing themselves to other women. And when they see a woman that they think is not the same as them, that is better than them or have more than them, they attack that woman. And oftentimes the woman that they attack is the woman that's standing on principles. Like, I can use myself as an example. I stand on principles. And what women don't understand is when you attack the woman that stands on principles, that's the woman that has it in her to regulate society and bring people back to the basics. But when you gang up on and attack that woman and she gets pushed out, when things get haywire and out of control, those very same women who do the attacking, they don't have the wisdom, the leadership skills, or the oil to bring society back to the basics. That's why things are continuing to go haywire and out of place. So you have a lot of women that are opting out of regular female jobs because they don't want to be bothered with women. And instead of telling the truth, they will say that I can do anything a man can do. And we've had this conversation, not here on this podcast, but in other ways, in other areas. I say, when I tell people to mark my words, I mean just that. I've said this about 10 years ago, that if you continue to go down this road to just say that you can do everything a man can do, that's going to come back to bite you in the butt, because then men will think that you're trying to do their job, and they're going to think that you can do exactly what they can do. It's better to tell the truth, and the truth is holding other women accountable. That's the truth. So you're right. You're going to have some women that are in men roles. We can do some of the men's job. We can't do it the way men do it. We have to improvise, right? Because there's more than one ways to skin a cat. We do have to improvise. We can't pick up that jackhammer the way a man can pick it up. I've done some construction work. I help. I have an associate that works on homes and things, and I've helped him and gotten paid to do it. I cannot pick up the jackhammer the way he does. You know how I have to pick that jackhammer up? When I hold it, I have to rest it on my thigh and push my leg up to move it along. A man with his strength could just pick that up and move it. I have to use my legs and knees and every goddamn thing else to move it. But I was still able to move it. When I'm using the jackhammer, I have to hold my body against it to keep it still. I cannot, like a man doesn't have to do that. A man's strength alone can, with his hands holding a jackhammer, can do what it does. I need to do other things to improvise to use the jackhammer. That's just one example. We can do the man's job. We can't do it in the way the man can do it. And we should not be comparing ourselves to trying to do that, because then again, we're losing the plot. But the other thing is, some women don't care to dress up. With women, everything has to be a fashion show. And if you're not in the fashion show, you get talked about, you get ostracized, you get mistreated. Now that's the problem with women. Right now, I didn't have that problem because I wore the outfits too. Like I had it all, right? But the problem was I had it all, so I was attacked. And it's to the point where that's part of the reason why I left my career to start my own business. If you speak to many women who are not working on the jobs, they'll tell you the same thing, right? So that's the reason, Matum. Who was the next person who was talking before who said something?
Yes. Yeah. This is Brother Tommy.
Okay.
Thank you for this conversation. It's an extremely important conversation. It is probably one of the most important conversations that the Black community needs to have, because we men need to, no matter what excuse we make for doing it, we must not abuse our women. No matter what excuse, I don't care if she committed adultery or infidelity, I don't care if she embarrassed you in public, you must not physically abuse her. Because if our women are not whole, our people have no chance of being whole. So men have to just swallow whatever it is they need to swallow to uplift our women, hold them accountable, but do not abuse them. So this conversation, I think, could go on for hours. So I'm in agreement with, I'm going to put a number on it, at least 95% of, I've been listening from the beginning, I'm in agreement with at least 95% of everything that you have been saying, and I've taken a few notes. But one of my thematic ways that I approach the subject of our Black community, whatever's going on, let's imagine that a man was raised in a house from a child. This boy was raised in a house, and all the other people in the house were pimps. Mm-hmm. They were all pimps. And now this boy grows up to be a man. Well, what kind of a treatment would you expect for him to give to women? I would expect you raise up a child in the way that it would go, and they will not depart far from it. So I would think that he would have a tendency somewhat to be abusive to women in some way, shape, or form. So I say that to say this. We as Black people grew up in America. We grew up under the oppressor, who in my opinion is a demonic persons. Mm-hmm. And we have taken on so many of their characteristics. And I think that's something, we can't use it as an excuse for those of us who have been made aware of what took place. But what we must recognize is, as you said, people are so easily manipulated. I know I'm very easily manipulated. But if we understand that we're brought up in a house of demons, we have to find a way to disentangle ourselves from that in order to overcome that. I could go on, but thank you for that moment.
You're welcome, and I agree with that. We have to find a way I know you say our people are taking on their behavior patterns, and it could very well be, right? Because trauma does rewire our DNA. It does change our DNA. But it is also important to understand that people are born that way. Hence why you could be a good parent and raise your child and give them all of the good principles, and they still turn around and do opposite to the principles that you have raised them. This is why I talk about principles and getting back to the basics. It's one thing for people to go out here and be a knucklehead. It's another thing when people's principles are not aligned with what you've been teaching them. If the principles are not aligned, it is because that's how they were born. So it doesn't matter how well you teach them. You got to understand that once the principles don't align, you couldn't do anything to change your child from becoming the person that they are. The only thing we can do, and this is why I say that we as a people need to study more psychology, get more family therapists involved. And unfortunately, a lot of therapists have personality disorders as well. And then they go, so, that's going to be a part of next week's conversation. Lord, that's going to be another one. A lot of therapists have Yes, they have personality disorders, and because people that have personality disorders also don't have integrity, therefore they won't drop out of the out of that field. Like, I have integrity, so if I found out that I have a job and my personality or how I was born is not going to allow me to provide the work my schooling has taught me to provide for my patients, I'm going to drop out of that field. But what they do is they go on to become licensed therapists and they practice. And a lot of times they align with the abuser. You hear a lot of people say, well, I went to therapy, but they feel confused and they can't understand why the therapist actually sided with their abuser. And that's because a lot of therapists have personality disorders themselves. So they align with the kindred spirit, right? So in that, like you said, we as a people have to say to ourselves, when we look at what society is looking at now, do we want our society to continue going down this road? Because it is not good for society. I don't see the positivity in it. We're projecting and carrying out a lot of damaged people. A lot of damaged people. A lot of people are being murdered in society. A lot of women are being physically and psychologically abused in society. And all it's helping is the person that is doing the abusing. One person versus a community that is suffering.
Arlene,
Yes.
this is Joffrey.
Yes.
I would like to have a copy of this recording.
Sure.
But, in your conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
can you speak to someone who needs encouragement from this recording, so as to help them deal with what's happening to them in their position? Because, you have women in positions as directors of groups and what have you, and in dealing with many of the women in the groups who are older and jealous, if you will, of their youth and what have you. I'd just like you to say a few words, because I would like to share this with a certain individual, and I yield.
Okay, and thank you for asking that, because you put me to the test and on the spot for that, and I didn't think about that, right? So I'm going to thank you again. So when I speak to those women, I will start off with saying this. We all have intricate greatnesses that lies within us. Part of the challenge is you haven't found yours. I'm specifically speaking to the women. You haven't found yours. There's something great about how you feel and the liberty that comes with finding your intricate differences, your intricate gifts. What makes you different? What makes you great? What can you do to help society become better? What can you do to help yourself become better? When you find that, you will 9 times out of 10 change your outlook on life. That's number one. Number two, to brace yourself for when you hear this recording. Just brace yourself and understand that this is not pointing fingers, but the hard conversation has to happen because we're looking at what's happening in our society. And we women, are supposed to hold the charge to bring society back to the basics. It is our responsibility to do that. Nobody else's. We hold the power to do that because we have what society needs. Our wombs are the incubator. Our spiritual prowess is what helps powerful people be powerful in this world. Our love is the reason why people take a softer approach to life. When we look at what's going on in the world, it doesn't reflect our prowess. That's what I need you to focus on. Please don't take what's in this video the wrong way. But it had to be said straightforward and straight up for us to get the picture of what's actually happening. Is that good? Joffrey, or you need something else?
Well, you're speaking to the women, and
Okay.
however she takes it, I just thank you for it.
Right, and one more thing, because you mentioned about being envious of those in their youth. I understand where the envy comes from, because oftentimes our youth has been stolen from us. Like mine has been taken from me by the grandmother that raised me, right? What I decided to do was not have children, and my life and my peace belongs to me. Find some way to take your power back. Taking it out and projecting what was done to you onto the youth does not take back your power, and what it is doing is further carrying on a unhealthy and wicked cycle that does nothing positive for our society. We don't see a loving and prosperous society reflecting back at us. In order to take your power back, you have to distinguish that energy and find a way to offset whatever it was that was done to you. If your childhood was taken from you, find a way to be free. And being free means not being easily manipulated and used by other people. Dancing to the drum of your own beat. I want to thank you all for listening. It is now 8:23. Baba Joe comes on at 9. Bill Graves will come on right after my show. Prior to my show, we had Dr. Bell, who she enlightens us on food nourishment. I'd like you guys to know that on November 8th, we have our quarterly disease prevention Soul Expo coming up with the Masters of Health and Wellness, where I will be one of the speakers. Brother Almal Ra, Jamila, Dr. Bell, Judith Morales will be a speaker. Terrence Wells, who hosts his podcast on Monday, will be one of the speakers. And we will rotate every couple of months with different podcast hosters of our network. And again, prior to the show recording on October the 6th, we will have our back-to-school school supplies and book bag giveaway at Weequahic Park during their house music festival. So come out and see Brother Forrest, myself, and a couple of podcasters at Weequahic Park while I distribute school supplies. I want to thank you all for showing up.
To say one thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I have to cut you off.
Yeah.
8:30, Bill Graves come on.
Yes.
Tommy probably hosts, and then 9:45, Baba Joe.
Okay. Thank you.
You had cut Bill Graves down to 1/2 hour.
Oh, Thank you for telling me the time. I forgot the time and I didn't look at the schedule. But thank you all for tuning in to the show. And again, next week we'll have an interesting conversation again in regards to therapists. I would like to know, is our therapist holding back information? What are they telling us? What are they not telling us? Stay tuned for next Thursday. Thank you all again and take care.